With the new year approaching, it's typically the time where people stop and think what goals or resolutions they want to set. When we think of this in more psychological terms, this is really the time where we start to think about the concept of self. So you may sit down and think, new year, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be or become in my life? This is really the time when we look and see what the difference is between the ideal self and the real self. So before you get started on your goal setting, ask yourself, who am I actually right now? Am I my ideal self or my actual self? Well, first let's explore what is the actual self. It sounds pretty self-explanatory, but the actual self is who you see yourself as. Well, first let's explore what is the actual self. And it sounds pretty self-explanatory. The actual self is who you see yourself as, not who others see you as, or what you're expected to do, or what you're expected to be, but who you think you are today. On the flip side of that, what is the ideal self? It is how you would like to see yourself to be. It's a very internal expectation. One could argue that it's really the external pressures that help to shape the ideal self, but really what it comes down to is how you yourself want for yourself. Now, with those definitions in mind, you might identify with one over the other. Maybe your self-esteem and your self-love is through the roof, and if so, kudos to you. You might think that you are completely and wholly your ideal self. Or maybe you think you could use a little more help to get to where you want to be, to your ideal self. And if that's the case, no worries, it is absolutely okay. You are normal and you are still worthy. So regardless of where you are now, you might think, well, who do I want to be? Real self or ideal self? Now, the two selves aren't mutually exclusive. Think of the two as a Venn diagram, one being your ideal self and the other being your actual self. The more overlap there is, the more capable you are of self-realization, which is the ability to be your best self. So congruence between who you are and who you want to be is important here. To me, I don't think one is better than the other, and I don't think one can exist without the other. I think throughout life, we should constantly be learning, and with that new knowledge, taking that and applying it to ourselves and our lives. So we should constantly be evolving. So the two selves, the ideal and the actual self, shouldn't completely, fully overlap. My mind just went in the gutter. Anyways, where was I? So to me, I think throughout life, so imagine this line, there's a line here of your life. It's a timeline of your life. This being the ideal self and then this being the real self. I don't think they should completely be separate at any point, but I think it should be like an inchworm across the timeline of life, where it's like the more you learn, the ideal self moves up, and the more you apply those learnings, the real self also moves up. So it's just kind of like this chain inchworm across life. You know what I mean. You get it, right? So we're constantly learning, we're constantly evolving. I think the important thing to note here, though, is throughout this evolution or this journey of self-improvement, we should acknowledge that each state and phase is a stepping stone to get us to where we want to be, and is so critical and important and worthy on its own. So we should really all strive to love both our ideal self and our real self, both equally and fully. So instead of saying new year, new me, I'm coming into 2021 by saying new year, same ever evolving me. And that doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well, but I'm sticking with it. So wherever you are, however you're feeling, wherever your headspace is at, I hope that you've taken some time to reflect on everything that 2020 has brought upon yourself, your community, this world. Take time to reflect on what you've learned. Take what you've learned from this year and move forward to be better, to be the ever-evolving you coming into this next year. And I will see you all in 2021. Happy New Year.